The residential solar tax credit is under fire thanks to a lot of the amendments that are in the One Big Beautiful Bill reconciliation that just made its way through the U.S. House of Representatives. What does this mean for solar? Well, there's a couple provisions in there. Number one, it would repeal the Section 25D tax credit, which is the one used for owned cash and finance solar systems. This would go away at the end of 2025 with no phase down. So any system installed after that, no longer available for that tax credit. It would also get rid of Section 48E, which is used for leased and PPA systems. So it's going to have a huge impact on solar. And I caught up with one of our in-house experts, Mitch, to talk about the impact this is going to have, what changes we're going to see, and he shared some tips for how installers can help weather themselves through the potential coming storm.
I know you are boots on the ground, really deep into the impact of all of these changes potentially coming to solar through the One Big Beautiful Bill that just passed through the House. So can you give our listeners, watchers, some experts, what is going on, what changes are coming to this, and what is the impact that the solar industry may see?
Yeah, 100%. Well, appreciate you, Ryan, for having me on. And I think the first thing I'll say is that we still have some time left on the game clock, right? This has still got to go through the Senate. We are very much still pushing to save the solar tax credit, but we're also starting to prepare for what could happen if it passes in its current form. So those are kind of the two things that we're looking at. As a whole, the way that it's looking is that the elimination of the residential clean energy credit, the 25D, is going to happen, which essentially would take away the tax credit for systems that are placed in service after December 31st of this year, 2025.
Brutal. And so what is the impact then? Because I know there's also some bits in here about a 60-day construction rule. What does that mean for homeowners who then were looking to get that credit?
Yeah. So, the big thing from what I'm seeing with the 60-day construction thing is that's really going to apply to the leases and the PPAs or the TPO. From what it seems right now, homeowners who are buying cash or loan will still have, again, the rest of the year to take advantage of it. It's really the leases and the PPAs that are going to get the immediate axe, again, if it passes in its current form. So with that, I think we're going to see a flurry of, TPO within the next 30 days or so. And then naturally, companies are going to have to make that shift, get as much volume as they can in with cash or loan before the end of the year.
And that's kind of an unknown hidden part of this too, is that, in the fastest of scenarios, projects could maybe start construction within 30 days. But I think you're exactly right. You're going to see things really go very quickly in the next 30 days. And then, do you see that maybe TPO options and availability for homeowners are just going to cease entirely?
That's what it seems. The major banks that are behind these TPO products rely heavily on that tax credit, and so for that to go away in the snap of a finger, I would say we could almost see the TPO products being turned off completely while they navigate what it's going to look like, whether they have to increase, the cost of the overall product. I don't really know what that's going to look like, but I do know that we're going to see a shift to ownership at least through the end of the year heavily if it passes in its current form.
Interesting. So looking at that ownership piece then, what is a world without a federal tax credit look like for a customer buying their solar, say January 1st of 2026?
Yeah. And I think the first thing I'll say here is that solar is still a viable option for a lot of homeowners, even without the 30% tax credit. We've had a lot of buzz and a lot of conversations going on with our contractors and our providers over these last couple of days. And people are falling on both sides of the aisle. But one thing that's clear is that there are still homeowners that are looking into solar that didn't even know the tax credit existed in the first place. And so solar will still be a very viable option for a lot of homeowners. That payback period is just going to, be extended by a few years, not having that 30%.
Absolutely. And that's a really important piece that I think a lot of people in the solar industry are understandably very scared about is the removal of this credit. But to that point, solar does still make sense from an energy standpoint. It is still a cheaper form of energy. And especially if some of the rate increases that are going to be going through that everyone's talking about, solar is only going to become more viable because the cost of energy at the grid is going to become even higher.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody's, reasonably so, everybody's a little bit nervous about what's going to happen. We will 100% see a dip in volume. Our industry will take a hit, but we'll bounce back just like anything else. If you remember, a few years back when California shifted from NEM 2 to NEM 3, we saw something similar where there was a flurry of people that signed their contracts to go solar. Installers were backed up for 6 months plus, even a year plus, just to get all those systems they sold under NEM 2 installed. And then we immediately saw a dip in overall volume while the market corrected itself, figured out, in this case, how to install batteries, how to make them economical pricing wise for the installer, for the homeowner. So it's going to be the same thing here, right? We will take a hit, we'll adjust, and then we'll come back and we'll continue to see solar be a viable option for homeowners.
Absolutely, it will. Now, I know there's also a clause in this that is a repeal of a transferability clause. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Yeah. So essentially, what that means is that solar companies can no longer sell their tax credit to investors. And so this is a side of the industry that I'll be honest, I'm not as privy to. But essentially, it collapses the tax equity model that is used to fund a lot of these leases, PPAs, and small developer projects.
See, so really, what we may see as one of the most prominent effects of this is a grand reduction in the amount of third-party leases and third-party ownership that you see in the market, and maybe a shift even more towards ownership than it already is.
Absolutely. If it like again, if it passes in its current form, that's 100% what we're going to see. And I think overall that'll be a good thing for the industry. Because I know that we believe this heavily at Solar Insure, that customer owned systems and owning your system in most cases is the best way to go solar. And so I think also this is going to push out a lot of salespeople in the industry that only know how to sell on that monthly price. And it's going to bring in a wave of people that are selling more on value rather than just a monthly payment, which is a good thing for the end user.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're exactly right. This will definitely be some short-term hardships, but a shift in the industry that may end up in some positives, in the long term for it, but definitely a hit in the short term for, unfortunately, many different areas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely going to hurt, but it will not kill our industry. I can tell you that for sure.
Solar is resilient, that's for sure. So what can a solar installer do to, you know, prepare themselves for this? What can they do in order to make sure that they are in the best position when these changes come?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big thing that everybody's wondering right now is how are we going to weather the storm? And so from what I'm seeing right now, I could break this down into really four big areas where installers can put some focus to survive this storm. And I would say the first is diversification, right? We see a lot of solar contractors right now that are diversifying into roofing, HVAC, general electric work, etc. Right. So diversifying your company's income into different home service areas is absolutely going to be a huge key. Next is learning how to effectively sell cash and loan, right? As you know, and as we've mentioned, a heavy portion of the market is TPO right now. And so having to learn the other side of it of selling cash, selling loan is going to be huge. So companies that lean into the value of solar rather than just selling a monthly payment are going to stand out in this new world. Um, Third thing is creative financing and no dealer fee loan options. Companies that find creative ways to finance, whether it's HELOCs, whether it's local banks, credit unions, or really that just focus on loans that have no dealer fees, are going to have a leg up on the competition. You look at some of the dealer fees out there that are 30% plus easily. So if you take away a 30% tax credit, but you also take away a 30, plus percent dealer fee, it's not a huge difference at the end of the day, right? And then the last thing that I would say is number 4 is bringing sales in house. A good portion of the industry right now thrives on the EPC dealer model. That model is heavily reliant on TPO, but also they love their big commissions. The dealer takes a cut, the manager takes a cut, the rep takes a cut. There's just too many people in the pie. And so the overall solar pie is going to shrink for it to continue to pencil out well for the homeowner. And so companies that are forward thinking of bringing their sales in house, sort of reducing that overhead and shrinking the overall pie, are going to certainly have a leg up in this new solar world. So I would say those are the top 4 things right now that I see happening.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Mitch, thank you so much for bringing us your expertise. And for anybody watching out there, you can contact us at the information that'll be in the video description. Solar Insure is here to help you through this process and help you be in the best situation. So make sure you check out that video description, get in contact with the Solar Insure team. Thanks again, Mitch.
Obviously, it looks like there may be some really big changes coming to the solar industry because of this bill. At the time of this recording, though, the bill still has to go through the U.S. Senate, so there is still time. If you haven't already, now is a fantastic time to reach out to your senators, urge them to take action against some of the policies that are anti-solar in this bill. I'll put some information down in the video description that you can go to reach out to your specific area senators. Thanks for watching, catch us in the next video, and stay tuned for updates about any of the changes coming to the solar industry.